It's great to see everybody. We're recording this meeting. For virtual participants, can you hear me okay? Put your thumbs up if you can. I see thumbs up. Okay. If there's any problems, please chat it up and we will we'll make adjustments here in the room as we manage this hybrid meeting. But really excited to be kicking off the Sacramento and Yolo County CERF efforts, the Community Economic Resilience, which is now changing its name according to the state to California Jobs First. But it's still the same initiative, and we're very excited that we're in this work with all of you, and that we're really kind of getting down to brass tacks of getting the work started here in our local subregion. My name is Evan Schmidt. I'm the CEO of Valley Vision. Valley Vision is the regional convener for the CERF program for an 8-county region. And this is our effort to zero in on these 2 counties and start to really think about what are our more localized priorities and needs and strengths, and how do we want to move those forward as we think about inclusive economic growth in this area. So let's start with housekeeping. And as always, hybrid meetings are complicated. So I ask for everybody's grace as we all manage in the room and on the virtual screen, and we're going to do the best we can to get this all operating smoothly so that everybody can see and hear and participate no matter where you are. So for people who are here in person, I think we've already done this. Move to the front of the room, and I think we're pretty good. We're pretty compact in here. And if you want to make a comment, raise your hand. Standard way. And for the people who are joining virtually, we can see you all. So we have 2 projectors here in the room. So we can see everybody gallery view on one of our screens, and then we can see the PowerPoint slides on the other screen. So that's great that we have some visibility here, just so you in the virtual room know that that's the case. And so because of that, we ask you that if you're able to, please have your cameras on, and that helps everybody feel fully participatory. I know that that's not always possible for everybody to understand that. Oh, was there anything else I was supposed to cover there? All right, use headphones with microphone for best audio. If you have a question, please type your question in the chat box, and we do have somebody monitoring those questions. Okay, we can move on. So our goals for our meeting today, and please forgive me for looking behind me, for those in the room, but we want to get a shared understanding of the CERF program, and I'm going to go through kind of our CERF 101, and we want to talk about the process that we're going to go through to develop our regional plan. We want to, and this will be a particular focus for this meeting, really identify how we can better engage our disinvested, underserved communities. We want to start to map out our next steps when it comes to what we can expect over the next few months. And we're going to have some breakout groups, and that's going to happen both in the room and in our virtual rooms, so that we can really dive in with you all on all of these topics. Okay, so as I mentioned, Valley Vision is the regional convener for our 8-county region. And one of the most important things that we've done is bring in partnerships for our local communities, because of course we can't do it all on our own, but we don't want to. There's plenty of people who are working in this space and are very poised to do community engagement, to help us with strategic plans, and to really lead this sub-regional effort. And so in that vein, I'm really excited to introduce our 2 Yolo and Sacramento co-conveners for this sub-region. And I will start with Pat Fong-Kushida and throw it over to you to say a quick hello and introduce your team.
Is the owl following me? Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Pat Fong-Kushida. I'm the presidency of the Sacramento Agency of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really excited to be part of this effort. And Annette Smith, who is seated to the right of me, is actually our community manager for the subregional strategy, Children's University convened. And we also have a partner, Civic Well. And unfortunately, Brunette couldn't be here, but I wanted to introduce Jonathan David. I don't know if you want to say it, if he goes or not.
Yeah, so John Vandervoort, here representing the Civic Well. I'm really excited to have you.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat and team. And I'm also really pleased to introduce Kiara Reed from Civic Thread, who's going to introduce herself and her team.
As I've been said, Carrie was the her team and the Valley Region team. We are leading the community outreach side of things. Colleague here, who's the program lead, in addition to my pal, relating to impact consulting. And I see you've got Faith McKinney from the Arts Country. She's one of our partners, along with Kim Williams and Alberto.
Awesome. And as these awesome women introduce themselves and their team, I want to note that, you know, the CERF program is a bridge building program. It's really about bringing really diverse stakeholders to the table. So that includes our business stakeholders, including our small business, which is a special priority and area of expertise for the Sacramento Asian Chamber. And then our communities, which is an area of expertise for Civic Thread and that team. So we really feel excited about the idea of how are we going to bridge the diverse interests that exist in our communities with these wonderful co-sub-regional conveners. It's a lot of words. Okay. All right, I'm going to do my best to walk through the CERF program 101 in hopes of kind of getting everybody on the same page, acknowledging it's a complex program, but it's aspirational, it's inspirational, and I'm going to try to tell the story in a way that really reflects that. So what is CERF? This is a new approach to inclusive economic development by the state of California. The state of California is really recognizing, hey, we have a lot of unique regions. A region is a great scale to develop regional economies, right? Because this is California is not just one thing. It is incredibly different as you look across the whole state. So they've identified 13 different regions, all to develop their own strategies and visions for inclusive economic development. So that's one of the new aspects of this program. It's not regional focus. The second new aspect is really thinking about centering equity. We've been doing economic development for a very long time in the state of California, and the outcomes haven't always been successful for everybody in our communities. And let's be honest, that really is the case. Many people have been left behind as we think about economic growth throughout California. And so the idea behind CERF is really centering around communities and around what they're calling disinvested communities. And those are both kind of demographic groups as well as geographic groups, places and people that have been left behind in the past and have not had the level of resource and investment that they need to thrive and participate fully in a growing economy. So it's a regional focus, it's an equity focus. And then finally, really thinking about the state of California is undergoing a transition to a lower carbon economy. And that's just the reality of where we are in the world. There's a lot of ambitious policy in California that's pushing us in that direction. We have to make sure that our economies on the ground are reflecting that, and that we're growing our economy in a way that reflects these climate goals and around both climate adaptation and actual innovation in the space, right? We need to come up with new ways of being that are moving us away from an oil-based economy. And that's what the state of California is pushing us to do. So those are kind of the new aspects of what the CERF program is. And I think it's really exciting that all of us are the folks like on the ground enacting this, making this happen, and really thinking about how are we moving our economy here locally, but for the state of California in these ways that's going to be more sustainable and more equitable. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us, and they put a lot of resources behind it. In fact, kind of a historic level of investment when it comes to helping support these equity-centered regional economies. So as a state program, there's $600 million in this. And the phase that we're in right now is the planning phase of the CERF program, which means our 8-county region, and I'll reflect what that is in a minute, gets $5 million to do this planning work. That's a lot of resources for our region to really think about how are we building our capacity? How are we really creating this regional plan that reflects all those goals that I just talked about? So I've already talked a little bit about the program goals for the state program overall. How does that really land in our region? So especially when we think about this planning phase, what are we trying to do right now? So first of all, we want this to be a co-owned vision. This isn't, we're the regional conveners, Valley Vision, but this is not a plan by Valley Vision. This is a plan for our entire region. So we're creating a collaborative, and we already have over 130 entities that are a part of this collaborative. And what's happening right now is one of the most important and initial steps, which is bringing people together at a more local scale to really engage in this process and think about and talk about how we're going to move it forward. So creating a collaborative and creating some governance and some decision-making structures behind that so that we can truly move something together. So next, our program goals in the region, we have to produce a regional roadmap for economic development. And this is really a key outcome for the planning phase. We have to build our vision. And to do that, we're using research, we're using community engagement, and we're doing things like this all over the region to really hone what are these strategies and how are we going to create this pipeline of projects that we want to have investments in, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to advance projects and initiatives that will help us meet these inclusive economic growth goals. And if we're going to be successful, we have to attract investments into the region. So this is about that $600 million fund, but it's about something much, much bigger than that, right? There is so much money floating around the federal government right now to support infrastructure and jobs and communities and equity. So we want to make sure that whatever we're building speaks to that, so those potential resources as well, right? So this is all about building our regional capacity to attract more investments into the region to meet the goals that we're trying to meet. And creating accessible, high quality jobs. And this cannot be emphasized enough because this is actually the stated goal of the CERF program, to create high quality jobs and to create equitable access into those jobs. And so that's a really important part of what we're trying to accomplish as we're going through these steps and these processes of the CERF program. So this is a visual representation of our governance structure. And one of the things you'll see right at the, very clearly at the top is the subregional committee structure. And just to re-emphasize, this is really important. This is what we're doing here today. We're kind of taking this ocean of our really large region, our 8-county region, and kind of bringing it down to the local level. So you can see right up top, Sacramento and Yolo is reflected here. Our other subregions are the Tahoe and the Tahoe area in Nevada County, Colusa County, Yuba and Sutter, and Placer and El Dorado County. So we're really trying to bring this down to a more localized level. And all of this connects to our big collaborative. That's the 130-person organizational collaborative that we have. And then right now we're working on formulating a kind of an umbrella entity, the Leadership Council, to help knit all these sub-regional priorities together and be our regional body that's going to help us with decision-making and help move things forward. Valley Vision is the supportive element of all of this. And I don't know how well you can see it, but underneath we have our shared vision and our shared values that really speak into everything that we're trying to do and reflect both the high quality job, the access, but really the inclusive process goals as well, to make sure that we are inviting divergent views and folks to the table who haven't historically been a part of these types of conversations. And I don't know that we've articulated fully what the 8-county capital region is, but you can see it listed here. And you might notice that we have a, we usually think of ourselves as a 6-county region, and we have all 6 of those counties: Sacramento, Yolo, El Dorado, Placer, Yuba, and Sutter, plus Colusa County and Nevada County. So it is really, you think about Tahoe, you think about our kind of foothill communities, of course, metropolitan Sacramento, you think about our agricultural lands. There's a lot that's going into these 8 counties. Next slide, please. All right, so what have we been up to and what are we going to be up to? And one thing I will note, our planning phase is about a year long, a little more than a year long. So it's quick. We have to move through it fast. So we started in the spring, launched the program, started building our 130-person collaborative. Some of that was already done through the application process, but continuing to grow that and kind of build that big umbrella group. Throughout the summer, we've been bringing on partners. That's included a research partner, and that's a Brookings Institution affiliated group who has been working with us since June. a communications partner, and then our local partners, and who are, some of whom are here tonight. And really, also, we've started learning together. And this is really important because if we're going to create different outcomes than what we've had in the past, we have to do things in a different way, and we have to learn those different ways of being and working together and setting our goals. Coming into the fall, we are working on an economic assessment and conducting research that's happening in an ongoing way. And that's going to really help inform us about what does our market economics look like? Where's our opportunities? How do we start to define our clusters and think about where we have the opportunity to build? We're going to launch our regional brand because for our region, this isn't just about the CERF grant. I mean, it's a great grant. It's a great opportunity. It's coming one time, but we want to build a much bigger opportunity for us to be like 10 years from now to be advancing inclusive economic development opportunities and really equity-based economic growth. So we want to build this to last. Bringing our subregions together. That's what we're doing tonight, and that's starting to happen across our whole 8 counties. Going into winter, we're bringing the leadership council together, so that group will start getting together and looking at the different inputs that are coming in from our subregions and our research. We're going to be conducting a lot of community engagement, and that's really happening at our subregional level. So really going out to the community to look at what are the needs, what are the strengths, what do we want to activate our communities. Starting to put together our project inventory. So we want to create this pipeline of projects. That's a really important piece of this. And that's going to start to come together this winter. And then finally, applying for the Catalyst Fund, which is the next phase of CERF, which is really all about developing projects. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Finally, getting into next year, we're going to keep maintaining these decision-making bodies and the collaborative itself. We're going to complete this economic roadmap that's happening kind of in the summer next year, and then launching the Catalyst program, which is the next phase of the CERF program. All right, so what are we trying to do? This is maybe I've said a little bit of this before, but just to put a really fine point on it, we want to build up resources around. We want to have new analytic resources to understand the opportunity landscape. So this is the research, the engagement, all the stuff that's coming in. This is all building our capacity to be able to do this work. We want to create shared ownership over a region, and that's going to help build our capacity to do things together moving forward. More capacity to develop projects themselves. So we might have some ideas about projects now, but by the end of this, we want to be able to flush those out to really put some meat on those bones and understand what are we trying to advance in this region? What does it cost? Who do we want to ask for? You know, where do we want to go for resources? How are we going to do that work? And, you know, to that effort, build that clear project pipeline across our 8-county region and ultimately create jobs and bring millions of dollars of investment into our 8-county region. That is super, super important part of what we are doing this for. Next slide, please. Okay, I talked a little bit about the next stages of CERF. These are really important because, you know, we don't want to build a plan and put it on the shelf. We want to, you know, this program is really built to be able to activate these opportunities. So the next phase is the Catalyst Fund. We're putting our application together now for a program that's going to start in the middle of the year next year. But this is about taking those priorities that we build out through our planning process and developing those projects further. So that could be feasibility plans. It could be coalitions that need to be built. It could be sector strategies to create workforce pipelines, but it's doing all that work, moving things towards investment. All of this links also to the implementation fund. So the state's going to have $268 million to advance ready-to-go projects. That's going to start happening the middle of next year too, I think, somewhere 2024. And they're really looking for those projects that are ready to go immediately, which won't be all of our projects. And that's why it's important to say, the CERF fund's important. It's great. We want to get all the money that we can, but also we want to bring other investments in. So we want to use this to catalyze other activities as well. Okay, I'm going to turn over to Pat to talk a little bit about what we're building from in the region.
So Pat, if you could stand where everyone was standing,
Sure.
the folks really appreciate that in the Zoom.
Sure.
Okay, can everybody see me okay? I'm a little shorter than Evan. I can back up a little more. Is that better? A little
good.
more?
No, you're good, Pat. You're good. Fine right there.
Okay, I'm gonna move this because I know I'm gonna hit it. I'll hit some. Thank you. So many times. So, Evan asked, that I give a really brief background of the Prosperity Partnership and really, part of the comprehensive economic development, plan that was put forward back in 2018 that kind of informs this work. So I'm going to go through it fairly quickly because I know we're about 5 minutes over time, but I'd like to go to the first slide. So I just want to give us a grounding on, we had Brookings come to the region in 2018 and really do a deep dive into our regional landscape and our regional economy. And what they found, which is very interesting, right, is that it's been on a troubling economic trajectory since 2006. Sacramento region ranked bottom third of the top 100 US metro for composite scores on growth, prosperity, and inclusion. 34% of the Sacramento region's residents live in a struggling family, and the region trails its peers on measures of business, venture capital investment, and advanced industry growth. So the recommendations for Brookings, right, support business clusters like mobility, health, food, and ag to improve job quality and investment, help our young firms grow strong through technical assistance, and invest in digital skills training to prepare a diverse workforce for jobs of the future. So in 2020, we actually formed the Regional Prosperity Strategy, and we released our findings, which actually culminated in a 2-year collaborative planning and public engagement process across 6 county regions. And so there were 3 principal goals: improve business, support people, and develop place. And the prosperity strategy is a triple bottom line approach, ensuring a strong, inclusive, and equitable economy for the people of the Sacramento region. And it does serve as the regional's federally recognized SEDS, or Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Next slide. So here are some of the strategies that came out of the prosperity strategy. Strategy 1, be the global leader for entrepreneurs for food, ag, and health innovation. Be the global leader for entrepreneurs and firms and workforce in life sciences. Be the global leader for entrepreneurs and firms and workforce in future mobility. Target infrastructure investment to support economic clusters and market drivers, and expand demand-driven sector-based workforce development, aligned to key opportunity clusters and a more inclusive workforce prepared for the future of work. And the last, create an environment to be the most business-friendly region in which to operate in the state of California. So the California Asian Chamber, the California Hispanic Chamber, and the California African American Chamber embarked on a study this year underwritten by Cal OSBA. We hired Beacon Economics and worked with the small business majority to measure the economic fiscal impacts of minority small businesses across California. And we actually had to use 2019 data because of the pandemic. There wasn't current data available. And we actually interviewed over 1,000 firms and did a number of focus groups and interviews. And what we found statewide is that 45% of small business and growing are minority firms, 193 billion in economic output per year, which is greater than the annual GDP of 18 US states, and it supports 2.56 million jobs. So minority firms are significant and drivers to our state economy. And here in the CERF region, because we did it by CERF region, there are over 74,700 minority-owned small businesses, and you can see the numbers there. 7.5 billion in annual economic output, 105,000 jobs are supported, and we generate over 1.2 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. So what does all this mean? And why is it important for CERF? So if we said in the Prosperity Partnership that we were going to concentrate on 3 clusters, right? Food and ag, mobility, life sciences. And we said, how do we connect our communities, and particularly our disadvantaged communities, to these opportunities to create high growth jobs? How do we do that? What's the playbook for that? Well, thanks to CERF, we have the opportunity to actually get investment in here to be able to drive that activity, right? So if we take a look at what the inputs that are going to be required in order to be able to get the outputs that we need, right? So take a look at the outputs: high road jobs, a diverse workforce, a range of career options, responsible industries, resilient, low carbon supply chain, a can-do mindset. I added that one, by the way. What does that mean and what does that look like, right? So we have to create, and we have a diverse pipeline of entrepreneurs, right? We have to create, and we have unique market solutions. We have to be able to support our entrepreneurs and our small businesses through risk capital and investment, right? We have to have and lobby, and I'm looking at all of the chambers that are on the screen and in the room, right? We have to lobby for predictable government rules and regulations. We have to provide the type of technical support and business development. And we have to prepare our workforce and create a resilient supply chain. If we do all that as part of the input, and we make the investments that Evan said that we actually need to make, workforce investments, infrastructure investment, business investment, I think we can get there, but it's going to require all of us working together to be able to do that. Are there any questions? Yes.
Hi, Kara with Acre 916. I'm just noticing that there's no mention of the creative economy. And thank you. I think the creative economy has a higher GDP in California than agriculture. And it is often overlooked. And it is frustrating because it is large, it is existing, it is growing, and in a lot of underserved communities are where they're thriving.
I appreciate that comment, because when we were doing the study, the statewide study about minority businesses and where they are and where they're at, do you know that no federal agency and no state public entity tracks that?
Yeah.
They don't track it. We try to get a handle on that as well. They don't track it, right? And what they can't measure, what they don't track, they can't measure. So we need to park that, because we believe as well that that's a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity. So thank you. Anybody else? Anybody virtually?
I'm sorry, this is Norma Santiago. I have a question. I could get my hand up fast enough. If I may, please.
Sure.
In the food ag sector, are you including forestry as part of the ag sector?
Not how the prosperity strategy is articulated, but I will note, important to say, this is a launch pad for us, right? This is work we've done kind of the first round 5 years ago with Brookings to start to look at where some opportunities are. We're working with Brookings again to go back and not only revisit these priority areas, but help us flesh out these strategies further, and also look at our more expanded geography. So just because it's not included now, that's really just a statement of like what we created in the past, and this is really our opportunity to look at that again.
Well, and I really appreciate that comment, because if you think about what CERF is asking us to do, which is how do we get to a high road jobs and a sustainable, inclusive economy in a low carbon future, right?
Right.
California is headed to that. And so I think that that's a really important point around forestry that we probably need to take a look at. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't recall.
No, please.
Questions.
Absolutely.
So, apart from the atrium is part of the creative economy, but we're also about sustainability, and we're all about the circular economy and how we get to the circular economy, and that is building, reuse, and construction. That is where we see it aligning with waste reduction, and that aligns with a lot of climate change goals. Where do you see that happening here? Is that also it's very sexy, the energy and everything else, but not a lot is talked about waste reduction.
Well, I do think that that's part of the equation, right? And I do think we get brownie points for the innovation. Now, remember, we're competing with how many other regions for investment? 13 other regions for investment. And so
total regions.
13 total regions, so 12 other regions for investment, right? And so everybody's struggling with this, and I will tell you, and I'm going to give kudos to Valley Vision and their leadership, and in particular, Evan, because we're so much further ahead just in terms of how we're structuring this in order for full participation than a lot of other regions. In a lot of regions, it's a little bit messier, I would say. So I think that there's an opportunity to talk about that, but what we have to try and do is figure out the scalability of that. And what we have to think about is the job creation as part of that scalability. So if you're starting to think about those types of strategies, I would encourage you to think about how that could be scaled and what kind of jobs it would be. Okay. Oh,
We have two questions in the Zoom room here. Kevin has a question and then Aziza.
Yeah, I just want to just make a quick statement about the creative economy. I think what we forget about the creative economy, that's also the STEM economy. Most of our creative economy right now is digital. So you're talking about a lot of STEM jobs. So when we think creative economy, let's not think about just traditional, maybe art, but it's very, very digital. So that it is part of the STEM era. Just want to throw that out there.
thank you, Kevin. Aziza?
Yeah, I'm curious, Pat. Hi, Pat.
Hi.
I'm curious as to some of the data that was collected by the statewide ethnic chambers, because it's always been a problem collecting data for the African American community in particular since Prop 209 was enacted in 1996. So where is the data coming from?
Well, I'm not an economist, so I can't tell you the exact method by which it was collected, but a lot of the economists extrapolate, I guess is a really good word, for lack of a better word, all of the public data that's out there to make some assumptions. And then what they do is they complement that with qualitative data with a lot of survey, a lot of focus groups, and a lot of research that has to do with actual individual conversations. I will tell you, and Aziza, I appreciate the comment, because the data that should be there around minority communities, and particularly with small business, isn't there. And so we've had to do a lot of digging in order to get to at least where we could get really good data around the 2018 numbers. But that's why this is a 3-year effort, not just a 1-year effort. We have commissioned Beacon for years 2 and years 3. And so we're going to hope to start to get the state involved in making sure this becomes an annual, gathering, so that we don't have to start from scratch like we did this time.
Can I just add, if we go back to the Beacon slide, the QR codes are links directly to the reports.
Can you, that's a good, could you, yeah, so see that QR code? Guys, you can scan that and it'll give you to the 100+ page report. I don't know how big the report is, but there's an executive summary too that you could download.
I do have the executive summary, thanks.
And then this particular QR code links directly to the prosperity partnership strategy, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Great. Thank you so much, Pat and Evan, for providing. Oh, yes.
I just wanted to share some comments that you made earlier. I think part of the reason Subregion is at the table is because we recognize that it's a gap of creative economy. So we appreciate you taking that.
Thank you. And I just got DAX and stats. That 7.7 of our state economy is the creative economy. 1 in 10 jobs is the creative economy. And there's not one here.
Yeah, That's great.
Yeah, I'll share that with you from Julie Baker. They run Californians for the Arts and they do a lot of learning. There's a new study that came out just on the Sacramento region from Americans for the Arts, called AEP6. So happy to share that.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I love the comments and just the feedback on Zoom. It's really wonderful to just be with here and we're going to work together to make sure that we have a successful CERF effort that leaves no one behind in our communities. So my name is Mary Tessa. I'm actually shorter than Pat, so hopefully we're going to do a deeper dive into our specific subregion, which includes Sacramento and Yolo counties. So the awesome part about our subregion is that we have 86 out of 140 collaborative members located in our 2-county subregion. So I couldn't even fit it all in one slide. We actually have 3 slides, and we're gonna break out into sessions in the next part of our meeting, but I just wanted to showcase the diversity of the people that we have in this big tent. We are still looking for more organizations and individuals to join our bigger collaborative. So we'd love to connect with you all after this meeting so that we can grow our big tent. So in terms of our collaborative members, we have community-based organizations, we have businesses, workforce, folks representing the environmental community. Next slide. We have government, labor, education, economic development, and we have a special category for community members. So if you are a community member or resident and would just like to join the collaborative, you're more than welcome to do so. And we have 3 other categories. We have philanthropy, food and ag, and health. And when we think about the work moving forward, there's a lot happening. I've been part of this program for about 3 months, and my gears are always spinning because there's so many moving pieces. So my job during this session is to help us think about how we move forward as a subregion in a way that is in alignment with the other subregions and that is clear for our community members and partners. Next slide, please. So this is just a really high level overview of our work for the next couple of months. So I have them grouped by months from November all the way to April. We, as a regional convener, Valley Vision, we have to submit our report to the state beginning of summer. And when we walk backwards, that really means by April, we're asking each subregion to submit up to 3 recommended implementation projects to the Leadership Council. So this is a really big milestone for our subregion. And to get there, we kind of have to walk backwards. So I'm going to just go over the top lines for each month. Starting next month, I just want to call to everyone's attention that we have a collaborative meeting on November 13th to learn more about our initial research findings. And then our next meeting of our subregion is on November 15th. It is going to be in West Sacramento. So from November all the way to February, we're going to continue our community engagement work in our various communities. So that's going to be really exciting to bring more people on board and to get more feedback on the projects. In December, we have the monthly meeting on December 13th. And then in January, January is actually a big month for us because our monthly meeting will be on January 24th. The subregions will begin soliciting projects for the implementation funds. So January is an important meeting for our subregion to get together. In February, the subregions will discuss projects for the implementation funds, and then March will continue to have those discussions. And as a subregion, we'll be working together to identify what are our top 3 projects that we will share with the Leadership Council of our regional body. I know this is a lot of information. There was a question in the chat room. We will be sharing the slides and the recording of this meeting after this event. I know it's a lot of information to process, but we at Valley Vision are here in case anybody would like to do a deeper dive on CERF. If you want to get into my brain, I'm happy to invite you all into it. And so this is just some key dates for the next couple of months, just so that everyone is aware. We'll be sending you more information after this meeting so you can have it on your calendars. I know we're running a little late, so I'm going to end my portion of the presentation. I'm going to hand it over to a really amazing colleague, Mike, to come up to our stage here. And we're gonna engage in some discussions around community engagement.
Thank you so much, Maria Tessa. And hello, everyone. Just to reintroduce myself, I'm Mike Kutal. I'm with the Everyday Impact Consulting team and a part of the Civic Thread team on the community engagement side. And so I'm just going to provide some very brief instructions because we've got folks both virtual as well as here in the room. And we're ready to dive into discussion. So just to share, those who are here in the room with us, we are going to actually have you in a moment here. Get up and we're gonna reorganize the room a little bit. So there will be three breakout groups here in the room. And we'll have one facilitator each from either Civic Thread or the Asian Chamber facilitating those 3 breakout rooms. And so we'll break out in a moment here. Those on Zoom, you will have the Valley Vision team to support and break you all out into virtual breakout rooms. And so we'll be moving in just a second here into that. And then lastly, all of our groups will have discussions. There's questions and prompts that the facilitators will walk you all through. But at the end of it, we'll plan to come back together in the large group to share some high level takeaways from the discussions. And so that's going to happen both in the room as well as virtually. And so with that, Maria Tessa, anything else you want to add?
Yes, for those in the Zoom room, we could just have a few minutes of your patience while we have folks in person move about to their specific table and while we get our breakout rooms settled. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. All right.
Together, so if you could please have a seat, then I can hand this invisible mic back to my coup.
Thanks, everyone. I am just so excited. These have already been such great discussions. And so we're really excited to continue engaging with all of you. And so I know we are trying to get you all out of here quickly. And so I would just love to hear if we could have one representative from each of the breakout rooms, just sort of share what stuck out for you? What was one thing that stuck out? And so maybe we can start with the folks in my group and just if there's anybody that would like to sort of, again, just sort of recap or share what was one thing that you're taking away from the conversation?
Well, my main takeaway is that there's a lot of Sacramento people in here and not enough Yolo folks. We're going to do a better job at it.
Thank you, Volna. Thank you. All right, let's go to Annette's group. Did we have somebody
on the Zoom, maybe? Sure, you want to share out first? Me? Yeah.
So we had a great job. I think the one big thing that we took away was making sure that we're focusing on the people first and meeting people where they are.
There's common threads. We heard that in my group too. All right, Catherine's group.
Okay, I'm gonna report out because I just decided to. The first takeaway was that it's a lot. A lot more groups areas and that's the question. So that was effective. And we have a lot about the first development. There are like many of you have in development both on side of educating and folks if they're not going to public, that's fun. Workforce development boards, not necessarily training in with not just the jobs that are available. They're not being enough incentives for employers to create jobs that aren't just creating and actually making it physical jobs good for them. They couldn't do that. I would like to invite you to
Yeah, I just want to say,
You need to project your voice.
sorry, I just want to second.
Great. And then I'm actually going to highlight one more thing from our group. I think in terms of the question around accessibility, we talked a lot about, again, meeting community where they're at. Even in these kinds of meetings and spaces, we want to make sure that we're in the schools and in the community centers that our communities are convening so that we can invite them to the game. So it's my last takeaway. Yeah.
So we could, sorry, that was my fault. We can start with breakout room 1. So I don't know if there's a identified speaker to report out.
Yes, I am the identified speaker. We had a great group, lots of suggestions, so we didn't actually get to fully get through to prompt 4. But I think we had some really similar conversations to what you have already shared in the room there. A big part is just really making sure that we're establishing trust and a rapport with the people that we're trying to outreach to, whether that be business, whether that be community, taking the time to actually really listen to their concerns about specific issues, and think about how the investments or even lack of investments are really impacting their communities. We had some great conversation about art and culture again, and just how much art and culture is connected to our overall health, and the way that it can inspire us to pursue other opportunities.
And in breakout session room 2, we have Kathy.
Okay, so that is us. Thanks so much. Can everyone hear me okay?
Great. Yes.
So I had some trouble with sticky, so the rest of my group might chime in here, but I'm going to go in the beginning. So wanted to emphasize that when we were talking about some successful collaboratives, we didn't get to do it in depth, but Aziza did in the end, and we do want to make sure that we bring it up. And that was a SAC IDC, which is the Sacramento Inclusive Economic Development Collaborative that was made up of about 16 organizations, chambers, and PBIDs that did a lot of work through pandemic, and all of us together. It also stands as an example as we are trying to rein in a lot of organizations here that it actually can be done, because we're an example of that as we try to continue actually to do the work that we do together. We talked about the workforce development things that are working that are well. There was we had probably more Yolo County in ours, which is great, so we got to hear from that. And Geneva talked about how especially there in West Sacramento during pandemic and afterwards, that they really helped people that were childcare, right? So people that might have been doing that maybe as a side thing or didn't realize that they were able to get them, licensed and established as now, they're actually their own businesses as childcare providers. And I want to add in there too, I think that it didn't fall in the sector, so she wasn't sure how to add it, but I think we add that as just entrepreneurship, right? We were looking at a lot of immigrants that came in. She said, Afghan, Russian, Latino, a lot of people that are there that are coming here and, with the right tools are able to establish businesses and help support themselves and their families. And I think that that's something that we should take of note as we're looking at all of this. And then I think I heard a lot repeated in here too, so we're going to echo it. When you're trying to, do planning and how do you do that and make sure everyone's inclusive, to really, go to those areas where people already are at, held the meetings there. We have a promotora, our business navigator, we fashioned it after the health one, who just goes door to door asking like, what's going on with your business? Let me find out about, and a lot of listening there. So when it is we're in those communities to really listen to what's going really well too. There's a lot of innovation and really cool things that are actually happening that I can speak to in our corridors. And I think that gets forgotten a lot of times when we talk about underinvestment or what's needed, when a lot of times they're like, look, this is really cool stuff happening. We just want you to also to be a part of it and help grow it and do that. And we should really take that into account too when we're looking at the work that we're doing and help build something that's already happening instead of always going in and offering our own solutions to things, when the community can really tell us what it is that they need and want. Anything else, group, that I missed?
I think you captured it, Kathy. Thank you.
I was ditto.
Okay.
Aziza, was there something you wanted to add?
No, I was just saying ditto to what Kathy, what Kathy had reported.
He's my partner. I always say my partner in good is Aziza. Yes.
Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Kathy, for summing that up as well as Alana for our folks virtually, and then for folks here in the room. As I mentioned to my group, this is just the beginning of our conversations, and we really are looking forward to continuing to build and plan with all of you and with those who are not here with us today. So I want to make sure that, again, we get you all out of here on time. Just thank you all so much for engaging in this discussion today. Then I'm going to hand it back to Maria Tessa to close us out.
Thank you. I just have a few more slides to cover, and I promise to get us home before 7:30. So here we go. Next slide, Dominique. Next slide after that. So Valley Vision, we have an incredible opportunity next Monday to meet with a variety of folks in our region to talk about livability. So we have a livability summit. It's not too late to register. If you do want to go, if you're a member of the collaborative, we have free tickets. So follow up with me after this meeting and I'll get you signed up. Next slide. This is just our contact information. So if you're interested in learning more about CERF and you're not a collaborative member, you can email CERF@valleyvision.org. If you suggested community groups that should be part of the collaborative, feel free to email us at this email address as well. And next slide, please. And lastly, this was our first hybrid sub-regional committee meeting. So I hope you all had a good time, but we need and would love your feedback. So please complete the survey so that we can improve and make sure that this is a really great experience for everyone involved.
So just really quickly, I want to make sure, especially for the folks on Zoom, I'm sure all of you are wondering, because I would be wondering this as well if I'm on Zoom, what's the next step? How do we continue to be engaged in this process at a real level, right? And so Kira and I were leading the convenings for the Sacramento Yolo subregion, and we encourage you all to continue to be part of this process in a real way. So Kira, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
I'm just a minute. If you could pull up the slide with the next meetings, on it, just to remind folks, I believe it's November 13th.
November 13th is the research meeting for the
Okay.
entire collaborative.
November 15th, 6 to 7, join us in West Sacramento and bring all your YOLO folks.
Yeah.
Happy to see you there.
Okay,
Catherine?
I just want to make one more plug about the survey. It's not just feedback on the meeting space, although we need that too, but if you wanted to add something in the breakouts and we didn't have time, specific suggestions, a couple of questions that we didn't have time for in today's breakouts, your respectfully is gonna matter for taping the rest of the process. So if you could take like 15 minutes, everyone's busy, but we were.
and I'm gonna ask a favor, and I don't know if it's our job or if it's somebody's job, but if this has been reported, right?
Yes.
And we're all taking notes, but if there's somebody who can synthesize all of this information and get it back to the participants, that would be helpful, because we want to make sure that your voices were heard. We want to make sure that everything that you guys talked about, that we've captured it and that we've taken it, and that we're going to make sure that we continue to seek input and to utilize that information. So it's not, this isn't just an exercise, right, guys? We got to move the football down the field. You got to get that $16 million in investment and more. So this is really what this is about. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Safe drive home. Bye.